What is this tool I found in a Michigan barn that was originally built in the 1870s? I found it during a renovation in 2019, and still nobody can figure it out. It's made of cast metal and about 10 inches long. The bottom blade pivots and the top blade can slide up and down. Any ideas? It's an antique can opener. Here's the only one I found at the Phillips House Museum in Rockville Center, a village on Long Island, New York. You poke the spear point to the middle of the can, then slide the blade and turn it around.
And slide too.
Most of the cast iron can and bottle openers with a comparable simple form and design date from the late 1800s to the very early 1900s. Although an exact date for this opener could not be determined, it is very possible that it too dates from the late 1800s or the early 20th century. What is this rectangular metal ball aerospace equipment on a base? It was found on a back counter, not in the dome or in public view of a planetarium that was built in the 1970s and closed shortly before COVID. Around 2 by 2 by 4 feet and around 50 pounds. It can tilt on its base horizontally, and the lens under it may be part of it somehow, but we're not sure. Google Lens says that it's probably a printer, but based on the lack of cords and print heads and the round lens inside the back of it, we don't believe it is. We've also tried reaching out to the last group that ran the planetarium, but many of them have retired or moved away from the area. Any ideas? It's a model of the Corrective Optics Space Telescope Axial Replacement, or COSTAR for short, for Hubble. I think it is a display piece, and not a functional piece, because it appears that there are small numbered stickers that most likely match a poster or display that says what each element is. The COSTAR was part of an emergency Hubble repair in 1993, after scientists discovered the telescope's primary mirror was flawed, making extremely blurry images. The real one is on display at the Smithsonian's National Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C. What is this tool I found in my basement? It has a long wood handle, about 2 feet long, with a metal blade, but only the saw-like bits are sharp. The flat part of the blade may have been sharp at once, but isn't anymore. Any idea what this could be? It's an old tobacco knife used in tobacco fields to chop tobacco before staking out to dry. They're historically made out of an old piece of saw blade. I have used 100 of these and still have one in the garage. What is this heavy cast iron mini bathtub found in the Netherlands that has been used as a magazine tray for over 40 years? The owner does not know what it is either, but it has been with him for as long as he can remember, and it can be over 100 years old. It's not a doll bathtub, as it's too heavy to be carried by children. Its size is 40 by 30 centimeters, and the pen helps in that aspect. The only visible markings are the number 19 on the handles, and nothing at the bottom. Does anybody here have an idea? It's an antique coal bin from the 19th century. Here's a similar item from the Zuiderzee Museum in the Netherlands. In Dutch, this thing is called kolenbak and was used to store coals near a stove. What is this small, dense metal object with a detachable plastic edge? It's approximately 72 millimeters in length, 30 millimeters in height, and 8 millimeters in width. My dad got this from somewhere unknown, maybe 20 years ago, and I remember he once mentioned it was a grip for fist fighting, but I don't believe that's it. It's heavy for its size, but I don't have a scale to check. And it has a groove in both sides, presumably for a grip. The plastic edge is somewhat dense and hard to slide off, and has 2 little grooves worn on the rounded edge. There are numbers in the edge when you take the plastic part off. It looks like maybe 176 when turned the other way in the pick. Any ideas? It's a tone bar made for steel guitars. Most people use the round cylindrical type these days. In the early days, they made a lot of different shapes and sizes. The black piece is probably bakelite, which glides very smoothly over the strings. I have a tone bar from the 50s made entirely of bakelite called the Black Raja. Bakelite is brittle and can be fragile, which would explain why that piece is removable. What is this old wooden handle with a metal tip and curved off on the side? I found it in a box of antique cast iron stove parts, but I have no idea if it actually goes with them. I'm definitely curious if someone knows its intended use. It's the handle for a fishing rod. I have one just like it. It was left in a cabin my parents purchased, and it has sat along my basement wall all these years. It was from an avid walleye fisherman in the late 1950s or early 1960s. Here's another one I found on Etsy, with imperial writing just like yours, and says it's from the 1930s. What is this thing I dug out of shallow dirt in eastern USA? It's a non-magnetic metal, silver or gray coloring, around 9 by 6 inches, and roughly 15 pounds. The right edge tapers thinner, so the thickness is not constant throughout the thing. The only visible markings on the thing can be seen in the picture, and there are no discernible marks or stamping on the other side of the thing. Thanks in advance for the help. It's part of a zinc ingot. They came in 3 sections. This one is the first section. It's from the Bunker Hill Mining Company, a mining company with facilities in Kellogg and Wardner, Idaho. I found this on eBay, and they are charging $1,000 for it. What is this wooden antique decorative figure with a metal spur on top? I picked it up at Goodwill this week, but I have no idea what it is. Google Lens was no help. I was planning on just hanging them as decorations, but the wood on the back tells me that's the wrong use. Any ideas? That reminds me of a coconut scraper, only more decorative. Perhaps it's one of those tourist trinkets that imitates a traditional functional item, but with an emphasis on aesthetics rather than ergonomics because its intended purpose is as decor rather than function. Coconut scraper is a kitchen tool that is used to grate the flesh of a coconut into fine shreds. It is commonly used in various cuisines to extract coconut pulp or create ingredients for dishes such as coconut milk and coconut flakes. It was common in Asia Pacific, particularly countries like India, Indonesia, Thailand, and the Philippines, before the development of electric coconut graters in the 1970s. What is this odd heavy police-related item that is brass, leather, and cast iron? It swivels on the belt loop holster and the button says GOF Herald Police Equipment, New York. He apparently was retired from NYPD and ran a police gear store in New York City. Very little information is available about him. The top is heavy, likely cast iron, but it does not seem removable from the leather sheath. The nipple on the bottom unscrews only to reveal another brass nipple attached to the knurled bit. Any idea what this is made for? Please tell us down in the comments. Thanks for watching. Let's make life fun.